welcome to another edition of the One Team We Agree On. I'm Jillian.
And I'm Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm tired because I'm back to work after that Thanksgiving break, which was nice but too short. And now it's Jesus take the wheel going into these few weeks left of, December before Christmas break. So, if you're the praying type, pray for me and all the other teachers, please.
Yes, and also swim coaches because it is championship meet. So we
Oh,
are working 30-hour weekends, ladies and
oh
gentlemen.
yeah, I'm gonna be
So
working all weekend.
lots going on.
Yes.
Obviously, the MLS never sleeps with MLS Cup this weekend, and also then we have the expansion draft, the college draft, then we have free agency, and then the international window
Mm-hmm.
opens. So
Yes. Well, today
yeah,
we do have a special guest.
yeah. Do you want to introduce them?
Yeah, so today we have Vince Gianfrancesco on. Okay, Vince is a big union supporter, both the first team and the second team.
Yeah, and somebody we've gotten to know through the course of the last 2 years, both on social media and then especially during the U2 games. Huge avid supporter. See him all the time there. So Vince, how you doing today?
I am doing great. I do want to say right off the bat to all the listeners, I want to thank these two, okay, for the work they did with Union 2 all season long. If I am incorrect, correct me, but I believe one of you at least was at every Union 2 game along with the rest of us for that whole season.
I would say probably 90%. I think one or
Yeah.
two games were like one of us couldn't get off.
Yeah, some of like the weekday games, like especially like 4 p.m. and stuff,
Yeah.
there was no way I could get to like some of the weekday
Trust
ones.
me,
But
I had to work. I'm in retail. I'm an assistant manager in
Oh,
retail, so I had to work some stuff like that Monday 3 p.m. game where there was 11 of us.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, we were at most of them, and thank you, I appreciate that. I mean, it
yes,
was a pleasure covering the team, and it was honestly a really bright spot for us.
for sure.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah.
before we get started, Vince, what are you wearing today?
I am in my Bridge Brigade, the away version, the Delco logo, I believe it's
Mhm.
called, shirt, and just a regular Union hat because I don't like trucker hats, and that's the only one the Bridge Brigade has available right now.
Yeah, no, I love the Bridge Brigade shirt. I need one of those. And it's a shame like that, of course, I'm one of the very vocal sell the kits kind of person because it's like it's literally take my money.
Hmm.
But I like that Bridge Brigade at least has some stuff. And yeah, you didn't too like missed a big opportunity because I don't know if you saw it, like when we were at the Next Pro Cup, we went in the Soccer 90s store there and they were selling North Texas jerseys. Yeah.
I don't think the Union realized I probably would have bought like three kits. Like
Hmm.
I would have had a Union 2 Rick one, probably Frankie Westfield, one of the other players. Like they could have made money off of me alone. It would have been worth a profitable investment.
Oh yeah, I know so many people would have bought them.
Yeah,
And especially like I mean with how good they were this year, you really had people buying into it. So
for sure.
maybe they'll think about it for next season. I hope.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely hope so too, because I
yeah,
feel like that's a missed
yeah.
opportunity
And they
for
were
them.
nice kits too. And even
Hmm.
that, just like, if you had specific, at least a t-shirt or something, like some kind of um merch for that would have been fantastic. So, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, I am wearing another team that disappointed me this season, which would be the Phillies. My City Connect t-shirt. It's actually Brandon Marsh. Well, I'm not going to turn around and be awkward, but it's Brandon Marsh because he's one of my favorite Phillies, and I guess it remains to be seen if he'll still be a Philly come next season. But anyway, of course, it's the City Connects were nice, especially because they were very union-like. So I think that was part of the appeal. My sister definitely is like, of course you like the City Connect. It looks like a union jersey. And I'm like, yeah, that's the appeal. Now, how about you, Kyle?
I am wearing tie-dye. I think I've only worn this once on the show.
You've worn like I think last year's a bunch of times.
I've
Or
worn
yeah,
last year's a couple times, but I've worn this since been tie-dye from Pride Month.
nice.
And so, yeah, I actually like this. I actually found it. I thought I lost it.
Oh,
And I was going through my collection and I was like, I'll break this out. I haven't worn this in a while, so
nice.
yeah. But it turned out really good.
It
And
did.
again, thanks to Valerie for like taking care of this when we were on vacation.
Yeah, yeah, because that was right before that Miami game, and then we were
Yeah,
leaving
and then
for
we were,
Vegas.
yep.
Yeah, that was the
Mm,
one game I didn't make this year either.
yeah.
Well, yeah, nothing missed there except for misery. So,
I
And
was
the
only
fun,
allowed 2 Saturdays off that month. I couldn't take the
ah,
third
uh,
one. And they were like, which one can you sacrifice? I'm like, the one that'll make me the most money when I sell my ticket.
right, right.
to people that don't realize that Messi's not here.
Yeah, for real, for real. It's funny. Actually, it's from practice tonight. I have this little 5-year-old, most adorable thing
Yeah.
on my one group, and he's like, I was talking about the Eagles with one kid, and then he's like, "Do you know Messi?" And this 5-year-old, and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I have a Messi shirt," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "You should get a Union shirt."
Yes.
Yeah, and then another kid, Thomas,
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, Union," because he
Yeah.
likes soccer and he likes the Union too, and it was kind of funny. But yeah, it was just funny. This little 5-year-old. It was just like so random.
Yep. We got a lot of those swimmers
Yeah.
into the union now, so that's good.
Yes, we're indoctrinating the children. What
Yes.
can I say?
Where it needs to
No.
start.
It
Yeah.
is a start.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
where can you find us?
you can find us on Twitter at TOTWAG, and personally I'm at silly double underscore Jilly. And Kyle is at Coach Almany. And yeah, silly Jilly. I couldn't get that one copied over to Blue Sky, by the way,
Yeah.
because they won't let me do
Your
underscores.
scores.
I've
Yep.
had that Twitter handle since 2009 when I signed up. Like I've been on longer than I've been married to you, Kyle, which
Yes.
is kind of funny, but um and it's like my Instagram handle too, by the way. Silly double underscore Julie. I think it's double underscore there. Whatever. It's a similar thing.
Hmm.
The funniest thing was Andre Blake saying my handle on the dupe when Sage was interviewing him and asked him my question, and she's like, "Silly Julie," and he's like, "Silly Julie," and I'm like,
Yeah, he like said like really profoundly like silly Jilly.
"Yep,
I was literally, I think I was watching it on lunch and I like started laughing. And they're like, what are you watching? I'm like, you don't understand the context.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
too funny." But anyway, so you can find us there. Yes, we're on Blue Sky as well. I'm at Jillian Almany on there. Actually, I went very basic.
Yeah.
And you're at Coach Almany on
Yep.
there, and we have at TOTWAG on Blue Sky as well. We are on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube at the One Team We Agree On. And we have our website, theoneteamweagreeon.com. Also find me on TikTok,
There you go.
Jillian underscore Almany, and I haven't put anything up there lately. The latest thing I put up was a recap of the Eastern Conference final, which turned out pretty good.
Yep.
Yep. So,
So let's get into it. You want to take it away?
all right. So, yeah, so Vince, before we dive into some union topics, let's tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Philadelphia Union.
So I had always kind of been soccer adjacent. I watched the U.S. men's national team growing up, team growing up. And when I was growing up, that was when the women's team just started dominating the 99ers. At that point, I was like 11 or 12, but we really didn't have a local team, so I didn't get to see too much for years and years and years. Played FIFA, I played as the Metro Stars. I know Boo now, but back then they
Hmm.
were the only team around. And then it was 2010, it was the first year. And I kept hearing about this team, and I'm like, I really got to check this out. And I started watching some of the games when they were playing at the link. And I met one of my friends, he was working, and I happened to see him at the mall where he was working. I'm like, let's go to the Union game tonight. And it was funny because he ended up not being able to go, but I bought 2 tickets, sat in the scoreboard end, and all it took. Fun story though. That was back before everything was there, so I parked on some random guy's lawn. I couldn't find my car when I left because I had no signal. What an experience in Chester for the first time. But I sat there. Sons of Ben were up, making noise, dancing, singing, and that was it. Bought
Mm-hmm.
partial season tickets the next year. I did lose my season tickets at one point. My family was in on it, and they kind of backed out, and I
Hmm.
couldn't afford them. But I have been to a game every single year since they founded, and it was the Sons of Ben who actually got me into it.
That's wonderful to hear. And it just goes back to the stories we keep hearing.
Yeah.
First time they were there, the Sons of Ben got them into it, and just the atmosphere and the camaraderie, and
Hmm.
it's awesome to see that. And I think again, it goes back to the supporters group,
Yep.
just continuing to support the team and just the connections and friends you make along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's very similar to how we started going to
Yeah,
the games too. So, I mean, yeah, first time I saw, Sons of Ben over in River End, I was like, that's where I want to be. That looks like fun. Okay.
for sure. And I think it took us what, 3 games till we were over there,
Yeah.
and then we never left.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm still there a lot.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean,
That is true. Um, um, so I gotta ask you, Vince, off the top of your head, what are your favorite moments supporting this team? And give me like two or three, and then what are those moments that you're like just standing there and I mean you could say the cup, but what are some moments that just left you heartbroken?
Uh, the three best moments are fairly easy for me. So number one is I went with my friend who it was also my boss at the time. Weird relationship. He's a Liverpool fan. I tried to get him
Hmm.
into Union. The Ilsinho game. That was the
Oh.
Pride Night game. There was
mm.
barely anyone there. The best game, best regular season Union game of my entire life. Number two is definitely the Eastern Conference final.
Hmm.
The previous, I'll talk about the previous year in a second when we get to most heartbreaking. But that energy when Corey Burke came out like running onto the pitch as a sub, and it was 13 minutes of sheer hell for
Hmm.
NYCFC is
hmm
absolutely. I still watched it when I need to pick me up. I watched the Ilsinho game and I
hmm
watched that 13 minutes. And then honestly, I didn't expect this, but the most fun I have literally had since 2022 was NYCFC 2, 3, Philadelphia Union 2, 4. God darn, that is so hard. The game earlier this year at the end when we clinched our home playoff game, and it was a 7 goal barn burner. That was so much fun. I don't think I've ever run that much in my life.
That
Back and
game
forth.
that game was nuts. What,
Yeah.
you were there for that one. Was that the one you were there for? Or
Yes,
Yes.
yes, because she got footage of me. So I
yes.
could kind of
Yes.
feel the
Yes.
tide turning, and I was a little bit further ahead because the Bridge Brigade had gotten big at that point. And when
Yeah.
Frankie scored that goal, I literally ran down, and I'm a big guy if you guys don't know
Yeah.
me. So I ran like 3 sections, and you could see me in Jillian's video, like screaming because I was wearing the Black Bridge Brigade shirt.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
all the guys come up on top of me. Frankie runs there, and like under that pile, I'm just like, I'm too old for this.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
heartbreaking, oh God, it's not even MLS Cup. Like I know it's gonna sound so crazy because for a second there I thought we won it, but a lot of people go back to that, and I know this is gonna sound so stupid, but I really enjoyed that season, that
Yes.
entire season. It was so much fun. My friends were kind of with me as season ticket holders for the first times. So I know it's goofy, but yes, maybe the MLS Cup was the friends we made along the way because that's when a lot of these started. 2021 hurt. I
Yeah.
hmm
still have full confidence we would have went to Portland and won. In fact, I don't think we've lost. I think we've beaten Portland every single time we played them for like 5 straight years. So I knew if we beat NYCFC there and then the contentious circumstances around it, that one was really heartbreaking for me.
hmm
Um, MLS Next Pro Cup this year was heartbreaking. I didn't expect it to be because the Union 2 were punching above their weight the entire year and
Right.
basically lost to like a team of almost 5 full MLS players.
hmm
But at the end, when the players were trying to hold it together as we were trying to console them, and I realized they're children, like it really hit into my head, they're children. At that point in this season, I feel like a soccer mom by the time we
Hmm.
got to the end of that season. So I'm like, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then for the third most disappointing one, I feel like they fought really hard. No, it was Houston. It was the away U.S. Open Cup against Houston. Because in the
Yeah.
other two, they fought really hard, but in that game, they looked so unprepared for the circumstances and what I thought was again probably the most winnable one, because
Hmm.
Seattle was a juggernaut when we played them, even though we were at home. Kansas City was a juggernaut when we played them, even though we were at home. But
Yeah.
Houston, we should have beat that year. They didn't do anything else. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people we've talked to say that was probably one of the most heartbreaking games that Houston Open Cup lost, especially because it sounded like a lot of people went to Houston for that game as well. So
Yeah.
it sounds like they had the support there and the team just did not get off the bus, so to
Yeah.
speak.
like I had invited friends over, and some people were late, and by the time they got there, like 10 minutes into the game, we were down a goal.
Hmm.
And I believe the first goal was the one where we were arguing a call, and Bedoya was the only one paying attention and tried to run back and stop an attack. Like it was, we looked really bad that day. That was one of the ones where I'm like, maybe this is the limit for this team. And then of
Right.
course Jim Curtin and that team continuously surprised us. But
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I 100% agree. I think 2021, yeah, if COVID doesn't happen, that whole thing, oh, I 100% think that was going to be the year that they would win the cup. I
Because you
do.
saw them come out of the what was it? It was the CONCACAF Champions League then. They come out of that and they just had that renewed sense of pride and heart, and you just saw that team kind of take it to the next level. And then, the Red Bulls game, that guy got going. Then they, win that nail biter against Nashville. And it was like, okay, here we go. And I remember leaving that night going, we got a shot at this. And
Mm.
then, of course, it happened.
That party happened, and
Yep.
so it is what it is. But yes, it's like to this day,
Yeah,
that one hurts. And man, those guys gave it their all, the guys that were on the field that day,
they really
Gosh.
did.
That yeah, that one just lives. That moment, just when, you know, they lost that. And also, mentioning Corey Burke, I'll tell you what, Corey Burke, yeah, that moment, I love that moment when he scored that goal in the
Hmm.
Eastern Conference final and then ran over to the corner and like saluted and everyone came running in. Like we've watched that every once in a while, but that's like why I hate Red Bulls, but I also like I wouldn't be mad at Corey Burke getting, to win a championship.
Yeah,
And the funny thing is it's Corey Burke against John McCarthy. Just a little
it happens.
matchup here. At the same time, I also don't like Red Bull, so
Yeah,
I really don't care either way.
you got no dog in the
I
I
kind of
fight.
can't
feel,
I can't have them actually win a cup because the only insult we really have for them, besides the 14 games, is
Yes,
like
yeah.
all these years no cups.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm pulling for Galaxy here. They need to go win it for Ricky Pooch, right?
yeah,
Yes, they do.
That's such a shame though. Like that
it
happened. I
is.
mean, you hate to see that. But anyway, so when you look at the 2024 season overall, what went wrong in your mind and how could it have been avoided, do you think?
I don't know how much could have been avoided because I will die on this hill. I know the season didn't go well. With the way the team played in 2022 and even how they fought through 2023, 51 games some of them played, they
Hmm.
deserved a one more chance to run it back. It did not go well. Um, the worst mistakes I've ever seen in my life, like the worst mistakes, are basically what sunk us. And it's even crazy stuff. Like Jack McGlynn was fairly consistent for years and years and years. Maybe he wasn't the greatest defender, and everyone's like, that's what you got to improve on. But his offense was tight. And he's the one who makes that terrible pass that leads to the Miami goal.
Hmm.
It was just, we were inconsistent. There was no consistency there. It starts with the fact that the defense allowed too many goals. You can't account for Andre Blake is that guy. Like he's
Mhm.
that good. For the people who are like, "Oh, does Andre Blake really win this team that many points?" Yes is the answer.
Correct.
Which I believe this year Kalina was the Andre Blake goalkeeper of the year. I'm pitching
Yeah.
that. That's my that's my thing for him. But to Jim's point, and he said this before, and whether in retrospect it was veiled shots, this team is not built to come back
Mhm.
from multiple goal deficits. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I love the way we play, counterattacking. We love when the other team has possession, and unfortunately, when you need to win a game, that doesn't work. So that
Right.
was one thing. Also, the Portland game was one thing. I know we had a lot of call ups, but one thing that we got from the town hall this year was that our entire plan for the summer was hope no one gets hurt and that we don't sell anyone, which leaning more on the front office than Jim on this one is insane. Granted, we have one of the best trainers, I'd argue, in Major League Soccer. It's one of the reasons why we were so successful in 2022. But it was just a confluence. Like Jim said, like, I don't even know how to describe it. We found catastrophic ways to lose games, like the most insane ways to lose game possible.
Mhm.
players got older. We kind of didn't retool. The younger players, at least in Jim's eyes, weren't ready to
Hmm.
step up and make those kind of gains. And then ultimately, a lot of other teams spent money.
Yeah, and what positives do you think came out of the season, if any, or any positives you can look at from the season?
Andrew Rick against NYCFC.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
a while there, for those of us at Union 2, we knew this kid could be a shot stopper. He's extremely aggressive, probably much like Andre Blake. Andrew Blake. I just went back to that Leagues Cup announcer. Kind of like Andre Blake, he can
Yeah.
start attacks. He's a little crazily aggressive sometimes, but he is a huge bright spot for the day when Andre can't do it anymore. Um, Love that we at least moved Julian Carranza. I believe we didn't see much of a transfer fee, but there could be some potentials there. Um, I really thought Kai Wagner had a kind of a comeback year. I know there was the issues last year, but it seemed like he did the right things with the league, and he kind of
Hmm.
just showed how good he was. And then the
Hmm.
development, Harriel, Jack earning spots in the Olympics. I was a little worried because of that inconsistent period that they were kind of going to get messed up out of that.
Right.
From the Union 2 side, they weren't getting a ton of respect, all of them in the beginning, but by the end, you had five, six, seven guys getting called up. So
Hmm.
a real strong year for the youth. I know that's what some people get mad about, but a real
Hmm.
strong year for the youth. I like the signing of Danley. We'll see how that goes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm gonna miss Jose Martinez, but I don't think he could have got a better send off.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. I that was like that's why it was one of my like highest of the highs when I did my highs and lows. Like I did, really appreciate that he got a fitting send off. I was disappointed that Julian didn't get, really to have any kind of send off at all. But yeah, I think those are some great points. Absolutely.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Ty, I forgot about how crazy a season Ty
Oh
had.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Absolutely.
No, and I think you often wonder. I know Jim said it a couple times. You know, the tie. I know he said a lot during the summer. The tie we see now isn't the tie we see at the beginning of the year. Which, okay, that's fair. He was kind of injured. I
Hmm.
get that, but I still wonder if you couldn't have got him some more time early on. But I get it. And
Hmm.
at the same time, Union got lucky there. But you brought up a good point because Ernst talked about the development. I mean, they talked about develop 15,
If you took a
16
drink every
times.
time you said
Yeah,
development,
been
you'd
a
be
great
drunk.
drinking game.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, yeah, there was a lot of great development from the second team. We're seeing a lot of development coming up from the academy, which hot take, I think maybe second team's not as good next year, but I think there's going to be a next wave is going to be coming up. Having said that, I side with Jim on that. You're not going to put CJ Olney in there for 90 minutes. You're not going to put David Vasquez in there for 90 minutes. Kevin, as talented as he is at his age, is he going to go out for 90 minutes I'm talking about 2024.
Yeah, at his size too,
Exactly.
against
Hmm.
fully grown adults.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is there things to be excited for? Absolutely. But those things are going to take time. So I'm not going to fault Jim in the million years. Where I think the problem, like you said, was the plan. Our plan is to hope nobody gets hurt, and we're going to bring in some pieces and we're going to see what happens. And you go and you get Sam Adeniran, and you're like, okay, great. This guy had what, 7 goals the year prior in St. Louis City. Cool. Maybe he works out. I mean, I liked his, he really pressed, but didn't really do much else with the ball. I think, he had probably one of the most lead foots, I would say, on the first touch you would see. But
Yep.
I mean, at the same time, for what the Union were paying him, you're not gonna you'll take that anytime. If it worked out, great. If it didn't, it
Hmm.
didn't. I just think I don't know. I feel like it was like, okay, let's get everybody together and we're gonna make a run. And they dug themselves, like you said, Vince, too big of a hole during the summer months with those crazy games like I go back to Montreal, go back to Orlando at home. I'd go back
Chicago,
to Chicago, which was just 3-1 up and late,
Cincy. Yeah.
Cincy, we love Marcus Anderson, but Marcus Anderson cost us a point.
It's
It's like,
also easy to see in retrospect now, but the amount by running it back, and now that we know what we know about the offseason, there is a lot of money invested in for the Union in roster spots 1 through 10. And based on the way they regressed this year, which again could not have been predicted,
correct.
but that is where we really lost the battle because we had no spend because we spent God knows how much XAM
Hmm.
to pay down. Like I was actually looking at it earlier, and obviously I play Football Manager, so I deal with the salary cap, so I understand some of the struggles. But we had Elliot Glesnes, Kai Wagner's a TAM player now. Blake is a TAM player. I'm missing someone else. There's someone like really obvious that's also a TAM player. Oh, Baribo is one.
Yeah.
That's 5 guys that we have to pay down. I don't know what the designated player like. MLS is too cagey with this, but it's at least more than 650 because that's what Ty made.
Hmm.
So every single one of those players had to be bought down with TAM. But now they're at 550 and the salary cap's like 5 million. So to fit anyone else under there, we had to buy them down with GAM.
Right.
So we probably spent 4 or 5 million in TAM and GAM just to pay down these guys, and then we're wondering why the roster is full of literal children. It's because we kind of mismanaged that,
Hmm.
which, as you guys have said, U22s, where you were talking about it last week.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think that you want to solve this, use the U22. And also, I get like Quinn being a U22, but I don't think you bring up a homegrown and say, okay, we're going to pay you more and extend you and then use, a U22 slot. And as much as I love McCanya, they got to figure that one out
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he's too raw. And we saw it at the MLS Next Pro Cup. I mean, making mistakes like that, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, again, hindsight 2020. But
exactly. He
but
was,
I like if I'm Makanya, I am going to let that guy go one on one with Andrew Rick before I
Yeah.
take a red card any day of the week with the
Yeah.
way Andrew Rick played this season.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and with the game situation too. You mean you still
They
the
were
the
still in
momentum
it.
had switched in that moment, but you were
Yeah.
still like, okay, let's try to get through this, and yeah, that was one of the when as soon
That
as
was
that
the
happened,
backbreaker when that happened. Just took
I'm
the
like, what are you doing?
wind out.
That to me, that was like, okay. I was kind of still defending him, like, okay, let's see, maybe he takes the next step, and then when I saw that, I'm like,
Because then at that
no,
point, like, even if you survive the 10 minutes that remains, or
yeah,
15 minutes, whatever it was, you now have to go. Again, by that point, they had subbed on, other than the striker they took off, Joey, whatever his name was,
Mm.
they
yeah,
basically had 7 MLS players, North Texas, on
oh
that
yeah,
pitch against
Hmm.
children. And now you have to survive down a player for 30 minutes after that and hope you go to PKs where we finally get the advantage because of Rick.
yeah,
Right.
right. No, it's like it's just those decisions that, like you're talking about. It,
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I I was hoping to see him get a chance, and I had a clip when I talked to him after a game. I had that all queued up and ready to go if he got playing time. Never got to use it.
nope.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, I'd feel better putting Neil Pierre in,
Yeah, it's what you said
over
last
him.
week. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be honest with the play during the season. Neil Pierre, if you're going to pick one of those two,
Yeah,
let's let him go.
Yeah.
He's
let's
still got to
let's
grow into his body a little bit, but his decision making, his positioning
Mm-hmm.
is
Hmm.
so much better.
Yeah.
He really has, and I know that was something we had him on early in the season. That was something he was focusing on his read and reaction, and you saw that a lot towards the end of the year. So
Yeah.
really excited for him. Uh, Vince, I want to get your thoughts on obviously the decision to move off of Jim. Where do you kind of stand on it, and just kind of share your thoughts on the whole? I mean, for most fans, frustration of just like, what was that about?
I would not have been happy either way. I
Hmm.
love Jim Curtin as a coach, not just because he's also like a totally cool guy when he interacts with fans.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But if that firing happens during that losing streak or that winless streak, I can at least say like, okay, I think this is a C move for us. but you can't have that bad of a run and survive in this industry. The move they made in this offseason, absolutely nuts. It happened that more coaches got fired after that, which I didn't anticipate. But
Mm.
to do that after so many other spots were filled feels kind of like a whatever, something directed at Jim because now he can't fill those spots. The not making an announcement for 2 weeks or having a video, like everything
Hmm.
about the way they handled this. Jeff Carlisle reported, I believe it was confirmed by Tom Boggart that he stormed out of that meeting. So it obviously caught Jim by surprise because he's never presented that way. Just all around F. I don't know what we were thinking. Like, I don't know who you even find now.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, we mentioned some of the names, but even like you go back and then look at them and then you hear, I think it was Joe had mentioned after the presser we were at that, he's looking for somebody with potential MLS experience. And then he mentioned, somebody younger in his last one and somebody who understands the diamond.
It'll
Um,
be some coach from like,
Red
the
Bull,
German third division or
Yeah,
something
it
that
sounds to
Ernst
me
is.
like
I
he
don't know.
wants a more compliant Jim Curtin, is what it sounds
correct.
like, which is
I
insane because you had Jim Curtin.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and to that point, you want a yes man, and somebody who's a coach. Your best staffs are when you're iron sharpens iron. You want to be bringing different ideas to the table. That's why I still say Jim's best assistant was Pat Noonan. They didn't agree on
Correct.
everything,
Oh, I was gonna say it, and you beat me
Hmm.
but
to it.
also, you see from the press box, you see Frank, like you see Phil Wedden, these are people that bringing ideas to the table. Yeah, and Jim was always very complimentary of that, even with Ryan Richter.
Hmm.
I just feel like you get nowhere with yes men because at the end of the day, if something's going wrong, who's going to take the blame? Well, the head coach is going to take the blame because then, you know,
And he did
the,
it all year long. He never once let anyone in this organization take the blame, and he got mad at his players when they called out the organization. And
correct.
that's the way it ended. Like, I don't think I'll ever trust Ernst Tanner ever again. Ownership I might turn back around to, but Ernst is always going to have a black spot on his record for me, and it's never going to go away because the way this was handled was ridiculous.
For sure. For sure. And what got me even more was like you kind of mentioned, there was like what, 2, 3 weeks of just radio silence, everybody thinking everything's
Hmm.
kind of okay. And then all of a sudden it just comes out. Then next thing you know, they're having a presser, and that presser was just odd because
Hmm.
everything they said just seemed to be reflecting. And, it goes back to the ownership too. I think Jay Sugarman's right now does not have his finger on the pulse of this team.
No.
And people are listening have been around since day one are like he's never had his finger on the pulse of this team. And okay, fair enough, but
I mean,
I get.
he had
Yeah.
his helicopter on a practice field though.
Yeah.
that's
It's just
true. That is true.
for me. It's just like I get it. It's a business, and these coaching decisions happen and stuff. But like this is not a case where everyone's like, you know, close the curtain, there's a few of those people, but it was like Jim's still wildly popular too. Like so many people were pissed off
And
about
he did the
this.
things that a lot of people criticize him for. And I know it didn't go well. But look at the
Yeah.
Miami game. We're up two players. What would he
Yeah.
normally do there? Stick with his guys. What did he
Yeah.
do? He pulled out defenders and he put in extra attackers. All the complaints that all the fans were having. He was throwing the kitchen sink at
Yeah.
every game possible. And it
Yeah.
Right.
just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he got so much out of, so little, to be honest. So, I mean, but it really also ticked me off that it took the union so long to, you know, thank Jim for his time, like to actually put together something. Because, I mean, geez, this
And then
guy,
right before the next Pro Cup, a
yeah,
lot about the
the
way that was handled
timing
pissed me off.
sucked. Yeah, the timing sucked.
Yeah, that
It
was
really
weird.
did.
Yeah, I didn't get that one either. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So that was a downer.
Um, in your mind, who do you want to see as the next union coach and what qualities do you want them to possess?
Do you want a crazy one that would never happen, but it's the coach that I would kill for no matter what?
I'm curious.
because that's Andoni Areola of AFC Bournemouth and
Yes,
NYCFC right back legend for 1 year.
that is right.
Those are kind of like he's to me he's basically this is gonna sound so bad because I basically want Jim Curtin except more animated.
Hmm.
Like Areola is just Jim Curtin if he was animated.
Right.
He's a player's coach. Sometimes it takes him a while to get in there. The only I will be happy with one person. I will be like content, and it will earn some goodwill back. And that's a guy I don't think it's going to happen with, but that's Marlon LeBlanc. That's
Okay.
probably the only guy right now that would earn my respect, at least a little bit from the team. Please, for the love of God, no John Herdman. I saw people saying that
Oh,
that
I
no,
know.
Yeah, we're all
no.
like, yeah, that would go real well with the fans.
Danny Sartini is a guy I've always liked, but he
Hmm.
seems very much just like Jim Curtin. He's going to get more out of a system, but I don't
Hmm.
see him being a yes man. So I don't know
Yeah.
how that goes down.
Hmm.
Most of the coaches that were fired, I don't want. Most of the coaches for the other team. If for some reason since he decided to like cut Noonan,
Hmm.
that would be a guy I'd take here.
Yeah.
Um, but most of the coaches that have kind of fought, like I think of FC St. Pauli who got promoted to the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Their coaches with Brighton, like a lot of those coaches in those 2 and 3 leagues that have success
Yeah.
get promoted to bigger teams.
So you're going to be looking at maybe a European assistant that's looking for a big break that, you,
Even
you
in
see,
Major League Soccer, like I think of a guy like I don't know where he's at now. I haven't followed it, but Jason Bent was a longtime assistant coach for I think it was Toronto, who kind of never got
Mhm.
his shake. Of someone who was recently fired, Ryan Fraser, I actually think got a real bad shake at Colorado, and they finally spent money after they fired him, which kind of feels again like a shot. He's a guy who kind of got a lot out of a little bit, and I think he
Mhm.
still deserves another chance. I think he got the short end of the stick there. I
But
don't like
to
Nick
answer your
pushing.
questions, sorry to cut you off, but to answer your question, Jason Benson, assistant with LA Galaxy.
Oh.
Actually, sounds even better now.
Yeah, he's one of their assistants. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be somebody. I, I don't know. Um, I've heard rumblings, but again, I really haven't heard a name. So I just feel it's going to be somebody kind of out of the blue, but we'll find out. And I think that's going to be the exciting part. I think the biggest thing is I from I hope it's somebody that has some of the characteristics because my biggest concern, we'll get to this in a second with the roster, is you're going to have some players for good or bad. I know Jim gave some of those players long leashes to speak their mind and
Hmm.
be themselves, which is great. You want to do that. You don't want to, like we were kind of talking before we
Hmm.
record, push players down where they feel like if they speak out or say something, they're going to be, or aren't afraid to express themselves. That's not good either. So, having said that, I think Jim's management of players, that's why he's one of the best managers
Hmm.
of players I've ever seen. Um, I think you got to get somebody with good qualities. But my biggest concern is you get somebody in there that's a complete 180. Now you're going to start to hear other players halfway through the season saying, I think I want to kind of move on, I
Yeah.
don't think this is for me and kind of move on. That's
Yeah.
my So let's get into the coach the roster for 2025. I know you're a big football manager player and you love the data analytics. Put on your manager hat for a second. What moves you making? But also from a standpoint going off of what Ern said, with the U22 kind of like we talked about before we recorded, using that, where are you kind of looking at to replace some pieces and possibly enhance through development?
First thing we need to do, and this is interesting because like last week you guys talked about this player
Hmm.
and thinking he wasn't ready. I argue he is ready. Frankie Westfield needs a union contract.
Oh, I agree
Oh, I
I
agree
100%.
with
actually,
that.
We agree
oh, sorry.
100% on that. Where I don't agree is, are you going to throw him in, play him 90 if you move off of Kai?
Not necessarily 90. I think you might need to do a Bizo Harriel platoon there. But the thing is, like, to me, if you're going to bring someone up from Union 2, and I know how high, like, you guys know how highly I talk about Neil Pierre,
Yeah.
you want
Hmm.
someone who is a lead at that level. So, like, to your point, data analytics, I actually went onto FOTMob. I didn't know they took all these stats.
Oh yeah.
So, Frankie is 90th percentile for goals. He's
Hmm.
97th for penalty goals. He's 100% for shots. He takes more shots than any left back, 98%. His defending is all green. His only like stats that aren't great in Next Pro, where he's not leading, is pass accuracy, long ball accuracy, which as we talked about is a weakness of the Union that is they expect to turn that ball over, taking shots. And then he's not a great dribbler.
Yeah.
But we also need a new developing leader because the team has still not addressed the fact that no one has been as good a leader as Bedoya, and apparently still isn't.
Hmm.
We might be trying to bring him back at least.
Right.
That's one. We got to start looking at. So again, heavy football manager influence. In fact, I might be able to bring up some names of guys I've signed. So I signed two guys from Uruguay. Uruguay. Um, Damian Garcia, he's a defensive midfielder, so I don't know if that's the kind of guy we'd want to bring in. But one of the guys I was talking to you, Kyle, about, and I always bring up, and this is the type of player we need to look at. I'm not saying it's this player, but Taco here in Nakai, I think he has a nickname Pippy now.
Yeah.
Real Madrid was a wonder kid 8 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it is. I think he's 21 now. 16-year-old, he was the guy everyone signed in Football Manager. He was the guy everyone signed in FIFA because he develops into he was the Kevin Sullivan of that era
Yeah.
for the fans listening. He is still in the third division of Spain, the same division that Marcus Anderson played in. He's currently on loan. I don't know how much Real Madrid would want realistically, but there has to be guys of that caliber that were the next best thing that never developed that are languishing, similar to a Ricky Puig.
Right.
Hmm.
He was a little bit older, but we have to be able to find, especially next year, I believe the facilities are opening. Hey, you want to come? I know we're focused on the American player, but hey, you want to come to Philly, well, Chester, and be in the best facility in the entire country and develop. That's kind of who we got to target. So we got to look at where a lot of players or a lot of other managers are having success. And Chris Albright, hint, hint, wink, wink,
Hmm.
Cincinnati,
Yeah.
Argentina, Uruguay. I know Seattle just managed to finally nab Pedro de la Vega. He was one of those guys
Hmm.
who was a wonder kid in most of the games that everyone knew him for. Little bit older, but once he got healthy, there's a reason Seattle made the run it made.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think South America, there's a lot of potential
Oh my
down
gosh,
there,
yeah.
especially in the midfield defensively. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's players. I will say Ernst has found some really good diamonds in the rough, but there's some better, like we said earlier, high
Yeah, he
quality.
struggles in Major League Soccer transfers. His
Yes.
outside transfers are mainly good.
Yes.
And again, you got to work out some of these big clubs have these guys, and I don't know how much they invested. They might not want to part with them, but at a
Hmm.
Right.
certain point, if you turn Uwa around for 4 million, is
Correct.
3 million too much to spend on a 20-year-old that could become at least a steady designated player for 10, 15 years, scoring 20 goals a year?
Look what Miami did with their U22. Signed him
Hmm.
for what, 3.5 and now sold him for 15 mil. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah, I
kind of business.
believe Tata, I think, actually wanted those players,
Yeah.
but Atlanta. Thiago
Yeah.
Almada was another one of those guys. Like, why is he
Hmm.
going to play on a football turf
Yeah.
instead of playing in a state-of-the-art facility that again opens next year? I know it wasn't open
Yeah.
then, but
Yeah.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. I think there is that balance of development that, there are kids, like you said, like Frankie, who we
Hmm.
would love to see up there.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that maybe or position that you'd like to see addressed?
we need a third striker.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, the ideal person who's going to be in free agency that the team in no way can afford, because I've already talked about TAM issues, would be Jeremy Abobasi. Would
Hmm.
be that guy.
I thought about that too, but you're right. A, they're not gonna pay him, and B, like unless he's willing to take a pay cut because he had probably his worst statistical year this past year. But let's be honest, I mean, they weren't anything to write home about. I mean, a lot of those players regress. So he's one. Yeah.
Kip Keller got released by Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He was a little bit of a tweener. He did play for Cincinnati too a couple of games, but I think it was a recovery stint. I
Hmm.
don't think it
Hmm.
was because they just felt he wasn't good enough. But he could be a guy if you actually want experience at center back. Um, you really want to start ripping people off of the better, like the final four, which a lot of them haven't made their decisions
Right.
yet. But we're set at goalkeeper, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
I think,
I actually think Ernst said that, didn't he?
yeah, he said pretty much at goalkeeper. You never know.
You know, maybe if
Yeah.
Uh,
Corey Burke wants to come back for 250, even though he left for a pay raise.
Yeah.
yeah, I think one of the things, one of my biggest concerns is that center back. Now we talked about Neil, but
Hmm.
I think there needs to be another like young player overseas that's got a lot of potential that you could flip.
Hmm.
Um, that's playing in like or even like a lower European top league that we could get some because I mean the amount that J Jacob and um Jack have been playing
Yeah.
over the last 3 years. I mean, you can see it.
I got a name. I got a football manager name for you.
All right.
Petko Christov. He's Bulgarian. He plays for Spezia Calcia in Serie B. He's older now. I think he's 25,
Right.
but that was one of my football manager signings that ironically could not beat Glesnes or Elliott for a position no matter what he did. But once he sold them, he became a locked-in starter for me.
Somebody like Orvix never saw the turf. So,
Yeah, like literally, I bought this guy because I'm
yeah.
like, okay, well, if real life, because obviously they update the game as time goes on. I'm like, well, this defense isn't going to be as good. I don't know if I'm going to be able to win games. And then of course they just like balled out because it's a video game. It's not real life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which one?
yeah, it's just you two.
All right. Yeah. So, we've talked a bit about you two. Let's switch over to them. While Jay and Ernst talked about development, who from this year's second team are you most excited to maybe see crack the first team?
You kind of brought that
I
up
mean,
with Frank.
yeah, we kind of talked about like, I know like we're really high on Frankie for sure. Like,
Yeah.
anything you want to like, yeah, anyone, maybe besides Frankie or anyone that you
Anyone
want to talk
else
about.
that I think anybody else there, or maybe anybody that, I don't know how much you follow the academy, maybe some people that have gotten kind of some bench roles, they come up for like 2, 3 games during the summer and then they go back and play for like the U15s.
He didn't make it onto the roster. Like he didn't make it onto the field, but he made it onto the roster. But Andrew Craig,
All
Hmm.
um,
right.
I know Brandon Craig's currently in re-signing,
Hmm.
but Andrews got it. I know the Bridge Brigade went up. I couldn't make it, but they went to Lancaster for the one U3 game, and he's a starter there, and
Yeah, we
he's
were
The
looking
there.
pretty. Oh,
the
you guys
look
were
you
there?
just gave me, well,
We
yeah,
were there.
we were at the Lancaster. Yeah. Oh, and
Yeah.
by the way, Lancaster.
Lancaster.
We live in Lancaster. No,
Okay.
but no, no, we were at the game, the Union
Yeah.
3 against Lancaster FC. That was a fun
That
time.
was coming right back from
Oh, that was a weekend where we had first team,
we had
second
Columbus,
team.
drove back,
Yeah.
watched the U2 game, and then drove over to Lancaster for the U3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came back, so I went to Orlando in the midweek
Yeah.
for that game. Then I had to work on the weekend. I'm like, I don't have it in me on Sunday to drive 3 hours. Um,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. The kid we got from San Jose, the goalkeeper.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh my God, he
yeah.
is so good.
He
And
is good.
I
Jose
know
right
he's
now is screaming
14,
at us because Jose's huge on him, and I agree. Yeah, he's probably gonna be
but
one.
Rick is probably going to be your backup, or if they can't find starting minutes for him, he could be loaned out somewhere. I don't
Right.
think he'll stay at the Union 2 level. So
No.
obviously
He
you
needs to
have a
play.
veteran backup there, Mike Sheridan, who hopefully comes back. We love Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting one of those kids up there. Gavin too, Gavin Wilkinson, I believe. One of
Gavin
our
Atkin
goalkeepers.
Gavin
Atkinson, sorry.
Atkinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I struggle with the names. There's so many kids on these
Yeah.
rosters.
No, he was really good in like the GA Cup and everything. It was fun watching that.
Yeah, and then you got, there's just a couple guys too, like just to see the continued build of Gavin Wetzel next year. I mean, I'm not
I
saying
was so impressed. There were two decisions that were made last year. towards the end of that season, well, this year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
To your point, Gavin Webb, he balled out at right back,
He
and
did.
he improved consistently throughout the year. And he's obviously smaller in height now compared to maybe some of the other older players in MLS Next
Hmm.
Pro, but really did work at right back, especially through that playoff run. I'd argue he was the best defender. I know he got beat for one of those plays,
Yeah.
but he was
Hmm.
arguably the best two-way defender in MLS Next Pro Cup. And I don't think he'll ever necessarily be on the Union squad, but Nick Pariano's move to defensive midfield also drastically changed that entire kind of run towards the end of the season. I
Hmm.
love Sanders and Gabo. I know his father passed away, I believe,
Yeah.
and he wanted to go back home. But Nick brought something I've always wanted the Union to try with Jack McGlynn, kind of a passer, distributor, the Harris Medunian six in
Yes.
that role. And that was really interesting. Last year, we used one of my favorite slots, the slot I can't believe teams don't use, slot 31, which, for those who don't know what it is a you loan the guy to your next pro affiliate and doesn't count towards cap and doesn't count towards anything on the team. And it can be a full senior team player up to a certain age.
I would really like to see Periano continue to develop, maybe bulk up a little bit. And then, I think he could be a very good, bring him on if you need an offensive attacker to close out a game, something like that, fresh legs. I think that'd be somebody. It's kind of like I've said about CJ Only, you kind of see him maybe
Hmm.
with the Open Cup this coming year, maybe get some playing time there. Leagues Cup.
That
Leagues
And then
Cup.
sounds like it's not happening.
Yeah.
And then if we're not going to sign any sort
Yeah.
of high-end striker, let's give Eddie Davis a chance in an Open Cup. I know he's the easy answer.
Yeah.
I also don't know how long he stayed.
What'd you think about Ernst's comments? Because, we've watched a lot of those two, and,
Hmm.
we've talked both him and Sal, big fans of him, but again, it's that jump, especially to striker at the MLS level. Where do you stand on that? Because I just don't know, especially if you want to hold up, and neither of them are hold ups.
No,
No.
no, they fit the mold of this team. So
Right.
the issue is a hold-up striker isn't part of our team, and most of those guys who were prospects we let walk because they weren't, which Ernst's fault
Yep.
because
Hmm.
he built this team a certain way. And then the other thing is because we keep talking about this, we keep going back to this like size. We saw what happened when these kids who are amazing, who deserve all the ton of respect that they've earned. But we saw what happened when a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds go up against the best team in MLS Next Pro, who also basically had, I believe it is seven full roster.
Right.
Like Dante Sealy played 11 or 18 games, like something
Yeah.
insane for FC Dallas.
Yeah. I
Kind of feels
mean,
like a cheat. I'm
I
just
Yeah.
gonna
mean,
say.
it does.
Yeah.
It does when you're like one of the youngest, if not the youngest. Were they the youngest roster this year? Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
the
Marlon
I
said it
think
over and over
there
and
were
over. Like,
times like maybe we
yeah.
weren't the act like because Kyle Tucker or Mike being on the
yeah.
bench like would
Yeah.
raise that. But from a locked in starters, I mean, who was the oldest player in Next Cup and in MLS Next Pro that's the cup that started?
Um,
20?
Was
yeah.
it Nick?
No, Nick Periano, who's like
Oh,
21, I
Nick.
think. Yeah,
Nick
that was
is the
it.
one who kind of off like is one of those
He,
guys. Like
I think Marlon said he was the only one old enough to buy a drink
Yeah,
in
outside
that.
Tucker.
I will
But I
say
mean,
that
in the
like
starting lineup, yeah.
that's the thing we kind of noticed at the end is that like of all the plays, like obviously no one was happy, but he took it the best, the
Yeah.
loss. And then I'm like, oh, like he's a 3 year college, like he's gone to college. I'm like, I forgot how old he is compared to the rest of the team.
Yeah, and back to Nick too. Like, yeah, I thought he just played tremendously, that end towards the end of the season. Like, really, really kicked it up a notch, which was key between him and like, CJ really had such a good season. I think for me, CJ and Frankie, especially, I think those guys could, you know,
I still like
deserve a
to.
chance.
I still like to see David.
David too. He just needs to get on
I
like
didn't
whatever
count them
Jose
because they're
Riasco's on.
already on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
They
senior
are.
roster,
No.
but you have four midfielders.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
you have Cavan, who can play anywhere basically in the center
Hmm.
attacking striker.
Yeah.
You have David and CJ, who can play center attacking. They both could probably play striker. They can play on the wing. You got
Right.
Pariano who can play anywhere in that midfield diamond. Frankie can play anywhere on the back line. Gavin Wetzel, when he was coming up, was a center back, so
He
he
can
can
play
play
anywhere.
anywhere on the line.
Yeah.
So we kind of have young players that can stop get again to whoever the new Union coach is. I want to make sure you're hearing me. That doesn't mean you play them there. That doesn't mean Nate
Hmm.
Harriel is a center back. Just in a situation, he can cover,
Okay.
and Frankie can cover, and Kevin can
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
Are you waiting for the possibility they move off of Kai and Nate Harrell is your day one left back and you got Bizo on the right?
I'm fine with it.
I know.
Yeah, give it a couple games. I guarantee you, if it comes down to it, well, it depends because Harriel and Bizo were at their absolute all-around best when they were fighting for that job in 2022,
This
Right.
is true.
constantly.
They were.
So, and I guarantee you, Frankie, besides everything we talked about his stats, he passes the eye test and he passes the attitude test.
Oh, for
Hmm.
That
sure.
man,
Hmm.
there was the video the Union 2 made where they're like, "Who don't you want driving the car?" That man is angry, but he's good angry. He is
Yeah.
Yeah.
not like I'm gonna go reckless and make a tackle angry. He
Right.
is every pass that I make is an opportunity for it to be better. Why didn't I do the right thing
Yep.
there? Every time I make a mistake, every time we allow a goal, angry. And that will get you positions through sheer grit. That is Union in a nutshell.
For sure, for sure. Reminds me a lot of Harrell when he came up. The kid was hungry. So
Yeah.
that's
Really
why I
reminds me.
am that's why I am confident. I just keep going back, and that's what I was saying the last episode. That jump from MLS Next Pro to the first team, it's like, ooh, but I think if you kind of do what they did with Harrell, bring him in, get him antiquated, I think you could see him pushing for minutes.
Yeah, to your
Yeah.
point, like he doesn't have to go in and start
No.
right
No.
away.
Bring him
If
off the
you have to
bench.
stopgap Bizo and Harriel there, that's fine. But give him those 15, 20 minutes, not Paxton Aronson minutes, not 5 minutes in stoppage
Right.
time.
Hmm.
Give him at least 15, 20 minutes to play in and really test himself against MLS opposition.
I
Yeah.
agree. I would love to see him get that shot. And back to David Vasquez, like I think that kid's definitely got good future. He just needs to bulk up a little bit, maybe get on like he needs a little some get on, whatever regimen Jose
Jose
Riasco's on.
Riasco,
That guy is like
when he came back,
jacked.
good Lord.
My
Like
God.
he had more tattoos. I'm like, did we replace him with a 28-year-old? What
Right?
happened?
No, it was funny because like his first practice, like
Yeah.
official practice
I did
back,
double
I
take.
was
I'm
there
like,
that day. It was the day I was interviewing
yeah.
Gavin Wetzel, and like I turned to somebody, I go, "Is that Jose Riasco?" They're like, "Yeah, he just came back." I'm like, "Can I talk to him?" They're like, "He doesn't really speak any English yet, and we don't have a translator." Damn
We
it,
we
darn
did
it!
it with we did it with the Bridge Brigade. I forget who
Yeah,
it was. One of them there. I don't know if it was Gav or Ant or Legs.
yeah,
Like someone said, like, who is that? I'm like, that's Jose Riasco. Like I was the first one to say it because
yeah.
like he just looked like Jose Riasco, just bigger. Like, what is that dude on? Oh,
I never I was like looking at Instagram and I saw pictures from training. I was like, is that Jose Riasco? And then I like
or
looked
is
and I
it
saw the
just this
tag
is the
on it and I'm like,
reaction when a 21-year-old walks into a group of 17 and
Right,
18-year
right,
olds?
right,
right.
Is that just it?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's
right.
crazy.
Do you want to ask the next question?
All right. What-
Nah, we'll scoot down.
which
Good.
one?
Right to that one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. All
Yep.
right. So, I like my match day ensemble and merch and all the different things. So, I would love to know from you, what would you say is your match day ensemble that you enjoy wearing the most and anything you're looking to add in 2025?
So I always try to match my jersey. I am mildly on the spectrum here, so I have to wear certain things at certain times. It's part of my routine.
Hmm.
I like my jerseys to match the team. So if they're wearing the home one, I like to wear the home one. But my go-to is my home kit, Chris Donovan jersey. Love Chris Donovan. Blue jeans. I have shoes that match. I've started to branch out and wear different color shoes. It took a lot for me to break that. But I generally buy shoes that match the exact colors of the team.
Nice.
And now I got brightly colored ones. For Union 2, I usually sometimes I'll wear a t-shirt because we don't have Union 2 jerseys,
Right?
Philadelphia
Yes.
Union organization.
Yes.
Um, Generally one of my Bridge Brigade shirts, and then the brightest shoes I have in blue and yellow, so that when we're doing shoe 2, you can see it
Nice.
from the ground. And then hats. my hat collection is insane. I actually just had to buy hat boxes because I'm
Oh,
now
nice.
over 60 Phillies, Sixers, Union and Phillies I have the most of by far.
Do you
But
have
you'll always see me in a hat.
do you have the Philly City Connect hat?
I do.
Yeah, that I don't wear a lot of hats, but I made sure I bought that hat because I actually really like that hat. Like that is a good one.
That is a good one.
So I
Yeah.
started growing my hair out. I think it was in 20, I think it was last year. And like I said, it was good luck hair, but in
Hmm.
reality, if I throw a hat on, you can't see I'm getting older and thinning, and it looks like I have this like luscious head of hair with curls. And now it's become my entire personality is hats and shoes.
Nice.
Nice.
Love it.
Love it. I got a fun one. You know how since you're down there with the Bridge Brigade a lot, you know about the hugs.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite hug flavor?
Um, I like purple.
Yes, me too. That's my
There we
favorite.
go.
Yes.
At least you're not like everybody else likes blue, except for Andrew Rick, who likes green.
No, and Eddie Davis told us he liked the purple.
And then somebody told us
Yes.
he liked blue, and then like I was like, no, you
No,
told us.
Eddie Davis gets purple.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Um, who was it that did? Was it David at the one practice? I was like, what's your favorite flavor? And he's like, I don't know. Is he blue? Is he blue? I think we
He
asked him.
usually gets blue.
a
Yeah,
lot of
I
them
can't
get
remember.
blue.
Someone gets red. We usually run out of blue. Blue is always a
Yeah.
problem for
yeah.
us. But it's also team color, so I don't know if it's just like
Mm.
intrinsic.
I always see
Uh,
Kevin Sullivan sneaking over, like why when the game's over, he like goes right over you guys, is like, yo, give me a blue, give me a blue.
Because he basically has to then go do 20 minutes of autograph controlled
right,
autograph
right.
sessions.
Yeah, I know, and it's just funny.
Yeah, that's so funny. No, because like as a teacher, I know like when I give out like lollipops or something for prizes when we do games or something.
Yeah,
Oh, a lot of kids like the blue. So it's just, I mean, I don't know. Kids
it
like it.
it is. Um, this has been fun, Vince. I appreciate you coming on. To wrap it up, one last thing. What do you, in your mind, what do fans get to look forward to in 2025? Kind of wrap this up. We spent this last hour, complaining about a lot of things and speculate, but what are some things in your mind fans get to look forward to in 2025, and how can front office ownership kind of start to slowly win back trust?
First thing they're gonna have to do is win.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but it is now all on Ernst and Jay
100.
Sugarman. So they're gonna have to, at very least, compete hard for a trophy. That's the easiest way to earn back trust. Um, I know it's like I said before, people don't like to hear this, but the youth, these kids are good. I hopefully everyone is looking forward to coming to more Union 2 games because
Hmm.
these kids deserve it. I am really hoping that Marlon is back as coach. I'm going to be very upset if he is not, but if you ever have a chance to watch that man coach, it is an absolute dream. So hopefully he's back. You guys give him that support. And then listen, I've been through we talked about this already. I've been to games every year. I've basically been a partial or full season ticket holder for most of the time. I've been through some brutal experiences. We've lost to Chicago when we were up 3-0 at home because what's his name that launched VAR? I hate that ref. But but like allowed handballs. I've left games where the only consolation was a loaf of bread. Hopefully, everyone here will just rally around these guys. They deserve it. Any of the players that come back, at the very least, Andre Blake, Bedoya if he's back, even guys like Jack Elliott, which I hope he comes back. Um, but support these guys, man. I know
Mhm.
there was talk with the protest that they're grown adults and they should be able to play with or without fans, but these guys do give their heart for the badge, even if it doesn't look like it. And then, most important thing that we need to look forward to next year is the wonderful group of independent journalists, podcasters, you guys, Jose, Todd, Mike. I love you guys. I love what you bring. The energy you bring. It has been so much fun getting to know you guys. And like one of the things I found this year, which MLS stadiums in general and the Union Stadium always kind of felt more like home because it's more accepting because of the culture and diversity. And as a queer person, I always felt like it was so nice to see a pride flag hanging there, not just
Mhm.
once, but a lot of that time. But I really found a second family with the Bridge Brigade. And if you guys can get involved, I know there's some changes in leaderships. Congrats to Justin, who won
Hmm.
SOB president, Jeremy, who also was with us at Union 2 games, who is the merchandise director. But get involved, I'm telling you. Come to these tailgates, meet these people. No matter what you think about them, the capos, the leadership, they really care about this team. And I guarantee you can find family in our independent journalists, like our wonderful podcasters here, and journalists Kyle and Jillian, and with all of these guys. I love you guys so much. Again, sappy. It sucks we don't have a trophy, but we kind of made a joke about it, even though we were sad. This year, the MLS Next Pro Cup was the friends we made along the way, literally, and
It
the
really,
Bridge
really
Brigade.
was.
And I really value those relationships. It doesn't exist in other sports, no matter how much you think it does. And I just love the fans of this team. So I'm hoping we can all come together, even if we have disagreements next year,
Hmm.
and support these guys, no matter how good or bad. Please be good. no
Yeah.
matter how
Yeah.
good or bad they are.
Yeah.
No, I think you summed that up very well, Vince.
Yeah, and really appreciate, the kind words about that. And it's
Yes.
been just great. I mean, we have met so many great people along the way and gotten to have great experiences. I mean, I have zero regrets about going out to Dallas,
Yeah.
and doing that trip, even though it ended sadly, just like when we went to LA for the MLS Cup.
Yeah, it's
Again,
like
I'd
weird
still do it.
because I got brought in by the Bridge Brigade and their energy and what Kyle and Evan and those guys have built
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
amazing. Honestly, I started going because they were so funny.
Yeah.
Oh
But then
yeah.
like by the end of it, I'm like, this is amazing. Kyle is walking out there with the MVP trophy. We're getting call outs. Like you don't do
Yeah.
it for the fame because like we're a supporters group, but
Yeah.
like I'm in the video on the screen and I turn up and I see me yelling into a camera and I'm like,
Yes.
what is happening? I love this.
Yeah. I guess, and like Marlon did say when I asked him a question in the post game at the MLS Next Pro Cup, like, he said, "Well, we did win a trophy last weekend, when the
Yeah.
that weird like Next Pro Eastern Conference one with the arrow thing that
We
they got
love
that.
it because the
That's such
Eastern
a cool.
Conference one post pushes right and the other
Yeah.
one pushes left. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, that was
designed
very
to be
cool.
one thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely, and I'm gonna miss Marlon if he's not back. Yeah, he was honestly the best to interact with, and I think like for me covering the team, one of the best parts was, besides interacting with the players and getting to, get their stories and everything, just like talking to Marlon, getting his comments and just like getting to talk to him because he was just phenomenal to talk to, just like Jim was phenomenal to talk to. But
Who
like
else is going to sit there and tell you? Like,
yeah,
I felt bad that I had to yell at Neil Pierre for making an amazing run because he's not supposed to be in
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
position.
right,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
No,
absolutely.
the thing with Marlon is, and I always will appreciate is he could turn a bad question into a good question real quick, and that's an art form, and he was always honest, and
Hmm.
he would give the great answers that you could clip up and give sound bites to any time, and that was the great thing about Marlon, and like I brought up, when I went out to interview him and his son, before that, while they were still waiting for Kellen and them to finish up, him and I sat there and talked about coaching and just the journey. And, from playing to this to that to now being here and just our stops and all that and just kind of just chatting,
Yeah,
having this long, like 20-minute conversation
yeah.
about like life, family. And that's even before the interview, you know?
Yeah. And how he embraced the Bridge Brigade and just that whole like partnership there was fantastic. And, I can't say enough good about, what the Bridge Brigade did for that. So you guys that were all down there every game cheering. Like honestly, we were actually in the stands for like the first two games of the season with
Hmm.
Union too. Like we were at the St. Patrick's Day one, whatever. We were down in the stands for that. And then we started to go up in the press box. But I'd be down up in the press box looking down. I'm like, part of me wants to be down there, like cheering with you guys, because what a time.
I'm pretty sure we could at least.
I mean, no,
I was gonna say,
that's
like, if you
why I
guys
at
are
least
both at the game, you guys could like alternate. Like one person joins
Kind of like
us.
what we do for the first team.
Yes,
I mean,
correct.
I don't know. Yeah, there's so few of us up there. It's usually
Oh,
just the two of us, maybe, and
and
sometimes maybe like
Pat.
Pat or Steve. Like
Yeah,
one of those guys will be
yes.
up there. But once in a while Todd or Jose show up. But like it's a lot of times just us. And there were games where it was just me up there, or it was just me and
Yeah.
Steve. Or
There was
Pat.
that one game where it was like that middle of the summer, it's just us two and
Yeah.
like that. But
So, I mean, trying to get the coverage out there because these guys deserve it. And I hope, if it's not Marlon, I hope, you know, somebody, whoever comes in, continues that, because nothing beats seeing Marlon, in that Bridge Brigade, you know,
Yep.
shirt and everything. So this is fantastic. I can't wait to see, I can't wait to see Bridge Brigade and just the fan base of Union 2 continue to grow. So thank you and, the rest of Bridge Brigade for the efforts on that as well.
Amen to that. So, Vince, where can people find you on socials?
So I am still on Twitter. I refuse to call it anything else.
Same.
The
Yeah.
Envoy of Chaos, although I use that a lot less. I am on Blue Sky, same tag, the Envoy of Chaos, except I am not. I use dupe.monster as my ending. But if you type
Hmm.
it in, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a custom one. And then I don't even know what my Instagram is, but follow me on one of those two. Get ready for some of the worst soccer takes you'll ever see.
Nice.
A weird adoration of Chris Donovan, and then lots of fun.
Nice.
Nice, nice. So, all right. Well, and again, we'll be back here shortly with some more interviews and
Yep,
content coming up.
we got
So
some things planned.
definitely be keeping an eye out for that and some articles coming your way. But this has been all for this episode of the One Team We Grow.
Yeah, and thanks again, Vince, for coming on chatting with us. This has been great. And can't wait to get back to some games, new season and everything, and get back to that and um, you know, keep bringing the energy and all of that as we get back to those. So, um, for everyone listening, make sure you like and subscribe. You can find us on all your major podcasting platforms pretty much or on YouTube. If you're watching this, you're already there. And make sure you leave us comments because we love hearing from you and we love the interactions.
And until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Jillian.
We'll see you at the game.